What is up, guys? Make sure that if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. What is up, guys? Fahir here from AwesomeTuts.com. In one of my previous videos, I participated in Create Your Game in 10-minute challenge, which, well, I rocked. By the way, I just owned it like a boss. I created it under 10 minutes, but enough about me bragging. A lot of you guys requested that I should create a video to explain in more detail what I'm doing in the game. And the game is pretty simple. So as you can expect, I cannot explain everything in 10 minutes because I'm rushing like Speedy Gonzalez to create a game under 10 minutes, of course, which I nailed it, by the way, if I did not mention that. Anyways, I'm not gonna joke anymore, but I'm gonna just dive in and create the project. So the first thing I'm gonna do is import these sprites right here in my project. You can download them, by the way, you can download them. Link is in the description below. They are under title, I believe, Create a Game in 10 minutes. So that is the title of these assets and the complete project as well. And if you like the video, like it and subscribe. Don't forget to do that as well. So what I'm gonna do is go in my scenes folder, but before that, in the game tab, and I said folder, but it's actually tab. So in the game tab, if you don't have it, it's under window, general, and game right here. What you need to do is click right below. For you, probably it's a free aspect, because if you created a new project like I did, this is a new 2D project. If you created like I did, you will see a free aspect here. You're gonna click on that and you're gonna select 480 by 800. If you don't have that resolution, by the way, you are gonna do what? You're gonna click on that and click on the plus button at the bottom. Click the plus button at the bottom. This label here is the name of your resolution. So name of the resolution, you can name it Carl, Kenny, Johnny, whatever you wanna name it. I named mine 480 by 800. And here, you're gonna set the width and the height. So 480 by 800 or full HD 1920 by 1080 or whatever, 3000 by 4000, whatever resolution you want to create a custom one, you can do it and simply click OK, and voila, you're good to go. After you do that, you can select the resolution from the drop-down menu. So enough about that. I'm going to go back here in the sprites folder, and in the background, I'm going to drag and drop the background right here in our hierarchy panel, which will make it visible here in the scene right here. And it's 0, 0, 0 for the position X, Y, and Z because I want it in the middle. I'm also going to right click in the hierarchy and create an empty game object. This is going to be the ground parent because I want to create a parent for the ground. I'm going to right click on the transform component and reset it so that position X, Y, and Z is back to 0, 0, 0. Z is not important, but well, it comes with the X and Y. The next thing that I'm gonna do is take the ground and put it under the ground parent. We cannot see it, so we cannot see it because the background is obscuring it. Now, I talked about rendering order and order in layers. I'm not gonna go in detail in this video. I'm gonna link a video in the description. I'm gonna put a video in the description that talks about rendering layers. So the background is order in layer 0. The ground is also order in layer 0. If we want the ground to be rendered on top of the background, we need to set it a higher value. So I'm gonna set 1 and voila, we see it right here. Again, I'm gonna link the video in the description below if you wanna learn more about the rendering order, because I'm not gonna waste time in this video as I have created a separate video on that topic. So select the ground, right click it, or actually, excuse me, you can right click it and you can duplicate it by clicking here, or you can select it and Command D, hold Command, press D, Control D on Windows to duplicate it. So now that we have the duplicate, I'm gonna select it and move it here. By the way, you're gonna select this cross tool at the top left corner of the Unity editor, and I'm gonna hold the V key, so V, not W, but V key, and you see the snap tool has appeared, and I'm gonna simply select the snap tool and it will snap them right next to each other. I'm also gonna duplicate it one more time and repeat the process on the other side, and voila, we're good to go. And I'm gonna position them here at the bottom, something like this, and voila, this is our ground. We do need to take the ground parent and add a box collider 2D on him because we want our player to stand on the ground. So attach a box collider component. I'm gonna resize it. For the X, 6.4 can do, and position Y is gonna be 0.38. So set the Y offset at 0.38. Voila, this is that. What is the next thing to do? Add our player, of course. In the player folder, we have the idle, and we have the jump, and we have the walk. We are only going to use idle. I don't care about these two because this is what I did in my game, 10-minute game. So select the idle and we are going to change the sprite mode from single to multiple in the inspector panel. Hit the apply button right here and click on the sprite editor button. So now I am going to click on slice at the top left corner of the sprite editor window. So slice is here, click on slice. This short window will open, click slice again and hit apply now at the top left corner, this apply button. So hit apply. So now we have two images. And what we're gonna do here is simply select both of them and drag and drop them here in our scene, which will prompt us to create an animation. I'm gonna create a new folder called animations. And in that folder, I am going to create the idle animation, which is this one. We don't see the player, of course, but here I am quickly going to rename it to player in the hierarchy. Order in layer can be 2, so T is rendered on top of the background. And I'm also going to set the scale at 0.5 for X and Y because he is too big. Let me just go here in the animator and check the animation. It is playing kind of dull. So I'm gonna go into the animation tab. If you don't have it, it's under window, animation, and blam. Click here and voila, you're good to go. If it's floating like this, so let me just select it. If it's floating like this, you're gonna select it and dock it like this, and you're good to go. For the sample rate here, it's 12. That means 12 frames in a second. It will play this animation 12 frames in 1 second. I'm gonna lower that. I'm gonna cut it in half. I'm gonna say 6, which is now 6 frames in a second, which will make the animation a bit slower and a little bit smoother. I like it like this. Voila, I don't care what you say. I just like it like this. So yeah. Anyways, select the player now. And we are gonna click here, add component. We're gonna attach a box collider and we're gonna attach a rigid body component on him. Now for the box collider, I am going to resize it a little bit. Let me just go here and resize the X, something like this, and offset it on X, like something like this. Let me just go here a little bit more, like this, can do, voila, we're good to go. So the size will be 1.06, offset on the X, negative 0.24. This is for the X on the box collider. I'm also gonna constrain the Z rotation on the player, and I'm also going to put him here. He is going to be at the center of the screen, so 0 for the X, but for the Y, just put him like this so that he stands on the ground. Now that we have this, we can right click in the project folder or in the assets and create a new folder for our scripts. In the scripts folder, I'm gonna right click and go and create a C# script, which I am going to call player jump or player movement control or whatever you wanna call it, because we're simply gonna move or make our player jump. Select the player, go here, attach the script, double click it and open it in Visual Studio, mount of behavior, whatever you're using. I don't know if you're using Eclipse, you can use that as well. So here I'm gonna go, I don't care what you're using. Anyways, here we are gonna say private rigid body 2D, which I am going to call my body. And we're gonna use rigid body 2D to make the player jump. So in the start or awake, you know me, I like to do things in the awake functions. We're gonna say my body is equal to get component rigid body 2D component. And simply here we're gonna create void jump inside of our function, or actually inside of our class. And we're gonna call this one in the update, so void jump, like this. And simply here what we're gonna do is we're gonna test if input dot get key down. That means we're gonna test which key we have pressed down, and we're gonna say key code space. So this is how we test which key we have pressed. So here input get key code down. That means when we press the button down, and here we pass for which button we want to test that. So that means when we press space down, then we are gonna execute the code that's here. And simply what we're gonna do, and here I'm gonna say private float, and this is going to be jump force, let's say 5. We can change this number, don't worry. So here we're simply gonna say my body dot velocity is equal to new vector 2, my body velocity x, jump force for the y. And we are good to go. And by the way, put this semicolon in line. Why are you killing me, Visual Studio? So yeah, let's go back in Unity and we can test it out. So if I hit the play button, and when I start pressing, so I need to press and press, you see pressing, and we are jumping. So yeah, this actually works now. Depending on the value, you can change that later on if you don't like it. So you can change the jump force, but basically we're using the velocity of the rigid body component, adding to it the jump force on the y-axis. X can stay the same, that has, well, the current value of the X, we can say here 0 as well. It will not change anything because we don't want to add anything on the X, and we can test that out right now. So I can play and it will not affect anything. So you can see we're still jumping, but we are not moving left or right because we don't care about it. We're just simply jumping. Because now, going back into the sprites folder and obstacles, we have our knife. You see the knife, it's gonna kill the player. Okay, so it's gonna kill the player like this. And what we need to do? Well, we need to, first of all, resize the knife. So 0.5, 0.5. And I'm also going to attach a rigid body, but make it kinematic. We don't want forces affecting it. If it's kinematic, it will not fall down, and I will demonstrate that. So here I'm also going to attach a box collider, and quickly I'm gonna change the size on the y-axis to 0.35. Voila, this is good. This is good. Even 0.34 can do. Yeah, even 0.34. This is good. So if I go back here and if I set the dynamic for the rigid body, and if I hit the play button, notice what will happen with the knife. It will fall down. This is not what we want. We want the knife to stand still. So instead of dynamic, I'm going to set to kinematic, and I'm going to hit the play button, notice, and it is standing because we don't want to use forces. We want to use rigid body, or actually the transform, to move it. And also make sure, let me just check the player. He has the value 2 for order in layer. The knife will have a value of 1. And also select the tag here for the knife. So right here, go under tag, add tag, click plus and create a knife tag. Create a knife tag and tag the knife with the knife tag. And by the way, this is going to be my knife right for the right side. And before I create one for the left, I'm going to go in scripts and right click here and create a C# script. This one is going to be the knife script. And I'm going to attach it on the knife. So drag and drop it, attach it on the knife right. And simply what we need to do here, first of all, I am going to type class here. And I really hate when this happens. You see these red lines below system, below mono behavior. For some reason, Visual Studio crashed. If I type here vector, it's not gonna fill in, even though we can type it out. So I can say here vector 3, it can work, but it will not type it out. So I need to close it and reopen it. I really hate when this happens. It is annoying, it is stupid, it is, well, just annoying. So the next thing that we need to do is actually create a couple of variables as soon as this opens. Come on. Finally. So first of all, we need a public bool. This is going to be move right to determine if we are moving right or left, and a private float speed, which is equal to 3f. Here, void move, so create a function called void move every single time it is creating or auto-completing this on animator move. I don't want this function, I don't want it. And call the move function in the update. And simply here, we're gonna create a vector 3 temp to store the temporary position, and we're gonna store the transform position. And right here below, we're gonna say transform position is equal to temp. But in between, we're gonna test if move right, which means we need to move right. We are gonna say temp.x plus equals speed multiplied with time.delta time. Else, if we are not moving right, meaning we're not moving right, we're moving to the left side, we're gonna say temp x minus equals speed multiplied with delta time. And simply here, assign it back to temp. What are we doing here? So basically we're storing our current position. Here we're editing that position based on where we're gonna go. If we move right, we're gonna move to the right side. If move left, we're gonna move to the left side. And then here we're assigning that position back. So simply we are taking the current position, changing the value, so in the temp, changing the value and assigning it back. And voila, that's that. If I go here and this one, so this one is gonna move left because this is the knight on the right side, he needs to go or move left. We can test it out. So if I'm gonna right click or duplicate it, and this is going to be my knight left. And I'm gonna flip it on the x-axis like this. You see, I'm gonna flip it and I'm gonna put it here and I'm gonna check to move right, just so that we can test if both are moving in the opposite direction. So if I hit the play button now, yeah, Exactly, exactly. Awesome, awesome. This is what we need. This is what we need. So yeah, the right one is gonna move to the right. So don't check this move right, or actually the right moves to the left and the left moves to the right. So don't check for the right one. You're not gonna check move right, but for the left, you are gonna do that. And also you're gonna check the checkbox to flip it so that he's facing, the knife is facing the direction where he is going. I'm also gonna right click here and create a new folder for prefabs, because we are going to store both of these, left and right, as prefabs, and we can delete them now from the scene. And we can right click here and create a spawner. Let me just reset the game object. This is going to be my spawner left. So spawner from the left side, I'm going to tag him like this so that I can see him. Move him over here. And for our spawner, in the assets and scripts folder, I'm going to right click and create a C# script. This one is going to be the spawner script. So simply name it spawner, attach it on the spawner left like this, and double click it and open it here. What we're going to do here, we first need a public game object knife. And the next thing that we need is a coroutine, a function that is calling itself over and over. Actually, the function that is delaying the execution. So here I'm going to say enumerator, and I'm going to call it start spawning. And here we need to delay the execution. So we're going to say yield return new wait for seconds, and we're going to wait how many seconds? Random range between 1f and 2f. So we're going to wait between 1 second and 2 seconds. So randomly between 1 and 2 seconds. And after that, we're going to create a clone game object, knife clone, which is equal to instantiate and passing the knife that we're going to instantiate. You see, this knife here is a game object. When we use this instantiate and pass this game object here, it will create a clone out of that game object, and it will put it right here. So the next thing that we can do is we can create a random Y position, because we want to spawn our knives. Let me just go here and take my highlight tool. We want to spawn our knives between here and here. We don't want to spawn them above here or below here, because we will not see them in our game. So the best way that we can do this is we can go in the prefabs and take the knife, for example, this one, and I'm going to put it here. So this is his lowest Y. You see, it can be -4. So -4 for the minimum Y. So you can go here and we can create a private float, minimum underscore Y, it's equal to -4. And we also have a private float for the maximum Y, which is going to be equal to, and if I go here, I'm going to position this one. This is the maximum where he can go, 4.3. 4.3 is the maximum for the Y. So here, I'm going to go back and say 4.3f. So now what we can do is we can say float Y, which is the Y position, is equal to a random range between minimum Y and maximum Y. So it will give us a minimum or a value between, you saw, the -4 and 4.3. I'm also now going to take the knife clone, and I'm going to say here, transform that position is equal to new vector 2. For the X, we're going to say transform position X, and Y, we're going to say here Y. And what is transform position X? That is the position X of the spawner. You see, the spawner, if I select the spawner left, this is where he is. So from here, we're going to start spawning our knives. And if I go back here, we simply need to call here start coroutine, start spawning, and voila, we're good to go. But we also need to call this in the start function. So it will start calling it here initially, and every time it goes here, it will call itself. So here, the coroutine will call itself. Now, a coroutine is a function that delays execution. That means after this many seconds, we will execute the code here. And I will link a video in description below explaining more, because I created a separate video on coroutines explaining in depth what they are. So if you don't understand them completely, click on the link below in the description and you will find out. Same as with our sprites. So we can start, we can go back here. We have the left one. For the left, we do need to pass the knight left or knife. And I'm going to duplicate the spawner left and rename it to spawner right, and remove the negative from his X. So -4.79 is going to be -4 or +4.79. And I'm also going to attach here knife right. If I hit the play button, you will automatically see what I'm referring to. So it is going to start spawning the knives you see here and here and here, and they are hitting the player, and this one simply drop the player outside of the screen. Which reminds me that we need to take both of these knives and set here the box collider is trigger checked. Select both knives, and the trigger for them, for their box collider, needs to be checked. So now we can play actually our game. So right here, as you can see, we can jump and we can try to avoid these knives. Voila, we are avoiding them, and bam, 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 bam. And by the way, I'm also gonna restrict the player so he does not go outside, because as you can see here, he can go outside and nobody can touch him. Now we need to do here a lot of things. You see here, these knives, they are, you see, they're still here. Even though we don't see these knives, they're outside of our game, we don't see them, but they are still there. Let's fix that first. So here in our knife script, we are also going to create a coroutine, or we can simply create a function. We can say here void deactivate after time, like this. And we can say game object set active to false. This means they will deactivate themselves. And here invoke, we can call invoke function. And here we can pass the name of the function, let's say after 3 seconds. And this is the name of the function we want to invoke. This is another way for a coroutine. This invoke function here will call the function with this name, which is this one right here. It will search for the given name. This name needs to match with the name here. So if D is capital, it also needs to be capital right here. So need to match up the name, simply copy and paste it, and after this many seconds. So after this many seconds, it will call this function. So now if we go back here and if I hit the play button, you will see now that these knives will start, you see, pay attention to this one, it will go away. You see, it simply goes away. You see, they start to, well, deactivate themselves. After 3 seconds, they simply go outside of the screen and they deactivate themselves. You can add a little bit more time if they are deactivating here in the scene, but they are not. The next thing to do is strict our player. So if I take the player and if I position him, this is the highest he can go for the X, 4.4. So 4.4 for the Y, not X. So this is the highest he can go on his Y axis. Instead of creating a new script, I'm simply gonna go here and I'm gonna say private float maximum Y. So maximum Y is equal to this right here. So 4.4. And here I'm gonna create void check bounds. And simply here, I am going to say vector3 temp is equal to, not minus equals, but equal to transform position. And here we're going to say if our, what is this? If temp.y is greater than our maximum y, then we're simply going to say temp.y is equal to maximum y. And here transform.position is equal to temp, like that. And in the update function, we're going to say check bounds. So now we're not going to allow our player to go outside of the bounds. So if I hit the play button now, and if I try to go outside, I'm hitting, you see, I cannot go outside, and he will die if the knife touches him. Let's figure that out. So simply here in our player script or player jump, we're going to create void on trigger enter 2D, which takes why are you, I need to turn this autocorrect on. Sometimes I love it, but most of the times I hate it. I don't want this to be called collision. I want it to be called target. And this is why I said that it is important that you tag the knives with the knife tag, because now we tag both knives with the knife tag here. We set their collider to be a trigger, so we can call this on trigger enter to check if the target dot tag y. Why are you autocorrecting me? If, not target, but target, like this. So if target dot tag is equal to knife, like this, that means we got touched by a knife. And that sounds weird, we got touched by a knife, but we're gonna say timescale is equal to 0 to stop our game. And voila, this is going to stop our game. Now, usually, since we are only going to use this here, I am going to leave it like this, but what I do is I create a separate variable here, something like private string So string knife tag underscore tag is equal to knife. And this is how not life knife. Come on, man, you're killing me. And this is how I do it, because it's a lot easier to maintain. If you are calling this in multiple places in your code, it can get messy by using the hard coding part. So if I go back here and if I hit the play button, you will see now that when we get touched by a knife, bam, time has stopped, nothing is moving, nothing is working, because timescale, this timescale here will stop the time. Now we are also going to go here and we are going to add a score, or actually a timer. So we're going to right click UI and text. I'm also going to select the canvas and set here to screen space camera. I'm not going to go in detail what this here is. I covered this in a lot of my tutorials. So simply set it to screen space camera and attach the main camera here. The text here can be timer. And I'm going to set the anchor at the top middle corner. Position X0, Y0, and I'm going to change it here, or simply resize it or put it here. I'm also going to resize it, by the way. Set the alignment of the text at the middle, and this one is going to be 0 for the X. Resize the font. Here I'm actually going to say time, and like this. And the color is going to be white. And we don't see it because we need to set the canvas and order in layer 4, and now we see it. So set the canvas order in layer 4 because the order also applies to the canvas. Again, link is in the description below for that video. So timer, and select the font size, and I'm gonna resize it. And let me just check here if I type 100, yeah, it can work. And voila, we're good to go. Now for this timer, I am going to go here and create an empty game object, and this is going to be our game manager. I did not do this for my 10-minute game, but if I had more time, I would do it. So we create a game manager, and here in the scripts folder, I'm gonna right click and create a script. This is going to be our game manager, and we are going to attach it on our game manager. And here, what we need to do is type using Unity engine.ui so that we can create here a public text for timer text, and here private int timer count. And what we need to do here is we will create a function for that. So here I am going to create a function, so public void reset values, and we are going to say timer count is equal to 0. But we are also going to count our time in a coroutine. So we're going to say I enumerator. And here I'm going to say count time. And simply we're going to say timer count plus plus. And simply here we are going to say our timer text.text is equal to timer colon plus timer count. And voila. And of course, here we need to say yield return new wait for seconds, 1 second, because every second we want to count the time. And of course, don't forget to start the coroutine. So coroutine, count time, copy and paste it in the start function. So now we are gonna start the time. If I hit the play button here, you will see what I mean. So notice now the time is gonna start counting, and actually we have null reference exception because silly me, we need to select the game manager and attach the timer right here. It's a good idea to attach game objects that you want to use. So now we will have our timer, and you see here, actually I wrote time instead of timer, but I'm gonna say time right now. But we see it's working, so here instead of timer, I'm gonna say time. What happens when we die? Everything stops. This is the point. Everything stops. We need a way to restart this. I did not do this in my 10-minute game because I did not have time. Even though I created that feature, the timer does not count anymore. We stopped time because timescale. The next thing that we need to do when this stops, we need to call our game manager to reset the time. So actually to restart our game. So we're going to say here public void restart game. And for that, we are simply going to call here. We are going to call here, and I'm going to say Unity engine dot scene management. So scene management, scene manager dot load scene, and I'm going to take this here, hit enter, and instead of here dot load scene, it's going to get loaded or get active scene dot name. This is gonna reload our game. And actually here we can also set the timer count to 0. So I can take the timer count and set it here to 0. And, or actually no, I'm gonna put the timer count there, and I'm gonna say here time.timescale. So timescale is equal to 1 so that we can start counting time again. If we don't do this here, because pay attention, we set the time scale here, and I'm gonna take the game manager. We set the time scale here to be equal to 0. If we don't set it back to 1 here, it will not work. And how are we gonna call this, by the way? Well, first of all, I'm gonna create here a public static game manager. So game manager, manager. And I'm gonna call him instance. And this is going to be our singleton. So here I'm gonna create void make, so make singleton like this. And what I'm gonna do, actually I'm gonna make him a singleton with don't destroy unload. So I'm gonna say it's actually instance like this. And I'm gonna say if instance is not equal to null, I'm gonna destroy the duplicate. So destroy the game object. Here I'm gonna say else instance is equal to this, don't destroy unload game object. By the way, if you don't know what are singletons, I will link another video in the description below so that you can, well, learn about singletons, because I'm not gonna explain that here. Void awake, but basically this allows us to call this, so we can call this function reset values and restart game right here. So here when the time scale hits 0, we die. We're gonna say game manager dot instance dot restart game, restart game. This will restart the game, but pay attention, I did not set here time scale is equal to 0, and we need to actually call this in the start function for our player. So void start, we're gonna call game manager instance reset values. But again, pay attention here, I did not set this. This is commented out. This will not be counted in the code. If I hit the play button right now, and if I die, pay attention, the game will restart. We will go back to our level again. So let me just, come on, one knife hit me. Okay, you see it restarted, but as you can see, nothing is working. We are not moving. That is because we need to reset the value or time scale back to 1. And by the way, I'm not gonna do it like this. I am going to create here enumerator, come on. And here I am going to say restart game after time. And I'm gonna say yield return new wait for seconds. And I'm also gonna show you one other thing here that you need to pay attention to. When time scale is set to 0, you see the time scale here, when it's set to 0, the animations will not work, except if they are set to unscale time, but that is not important now. This wait for seconds will also not work. But now you have a question, why am I calling it when it's not gonna work? Well, I'm gonna show you in a second. You see here, first of all, I'm gonna show you that it will not work. Here I'm gonna start this coroutine to restart the game after 2 seconds. But since the time scale is set to 0 here, nothing that is time dependent will not work. So wait for seconds is dependent on the time scale. If the time scale is 0, this will not be called. If I go here, pay attention now. So if I go here and one knife hits me, bam, it hits me. After 2 seconds, it should restart, but no, it's not restarting because time wait for second does not work. What we need to do here is wait for seconds real time. So this is what we need to call. Real time is independent from time scale. So time scale will not affect it and it will work. So this is another great tip to know. If I go here, hit the play button again for the millionth of time, now we can finally play our game. And this is my 10-minute game created in half an hour. So yeah, if I die now, you see, it's gonna restart and bam, we are gonna start again from start. But actually, you see here, this is also what I missed. What we need to do is we need to get this component. So this timer, we actually need to get it like this. You see, now we have a null reference exception because we are restarting things. What we need to do here is in the start function, so actually here in the start function, we need to say timer, which is our timer text is equal to game object, find the game object with the name timer dot get component, and we're gonna get the text component from it. So here we can set this to be private. Instead of public, we can set it to be private. So every time we restart the game, we will call this code again and we will get the timer again. Actually, this code right here is not gonna work as well. I mean, it is, but still we're gonna have a null reference exception, and I'm gonna tell you in a moment why. And first of all, I'm gonna show you, but if we go here and if we die, you see we died and we're gonna restart things, and now we have a null reference exception. Now the reason is because this is our singleton. We use this don't destroy unload game object, so this game object will not be a copy. Go and watch the video about the singletons and this will be more clear. Now, in order to fix this, we must remove these lines of code here. And what we can do is we can say here, if instance is equal to null, then we're gonna say instance is equal to this. We cannot use don't destroy unload game object because this makes things complicated, because this game object will not be destroyed when we reload the same scene. It will not be destroyed, and this right here will not be called because of the singleton. And again, link is in the description below. Watch the video about singletons. So if I go back here, and now if I hit the play button, we will see that this actually works now, and we will not have any issues. So if my knife kills me, notice now when I restart the game, we don't see a null reference exception. Everything is working and we can play our game, and voila, we can die over and over again, and we can restart the game as many times as we want. So yeah, basically this is my 10-minute game in 40 minutes. So Fahir here from awesomejizz.com. Now, for this game, you can download it. Link is in the description below. I will also put the videos for the sprite rendering order, videos for the coroutine, and video for the singleton pattern so that you can see what I was talking about here if you don't understand completely. So this is how can we create this game, add more functionality. This is a game I created in 10 minutes. I will also put a link to that video if you want to see me. I did not add all of these features, like we don't have the timer, so on and so forth. Anyways, if you like this video, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And again, you can download this complete project with the assets. Link is in the description below as well. And Fahir here from awesomejizz.com. I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure that if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.